Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today I am going to talk about the basic terminologies of morphology, that is morpheme, morph and allomorph. First of all, I am going to discuss about morpheme. What is a morpheme? We define a morpheme as morpheme is the smallest indivisible unit of a semantic content and grammatical function. Here the word semantic content tells you that morpheme is a unit of a language that has a meaning of its own. And why we are calling it as the smallest? It is the smallest because if you will reduce it further, it is going to lose its meaning. That is why we are saying that the properties of a morpheme is that it is the smallest in nature, as well as it has a semantic content. It is a unit of semantic content and it serves a grammatical function. So you can define a morpheme as the smallest indivisible unit of semantic content and grammatical function, because necessarily it serves a grammatical function, and we are saying that it has a semantic content means a morpheme has a meaning. Um, in other words, we can define a morpheme as it is a minimal unit of a language which has a meaning, lexical or grammatical meaning that we are talking about. It can be a grammatical meaning or it can be a lexical meaning, and it cannot be divided further into smallest unit. These are the two things that are the same thing, the same thing that we have defined in this bold definition. The same thing is defined here. And for example, the word justifiable consists of three morphemes. First of all, un, justify and able. Why there are three different morphemes? Because they all have their own meaning, and it is the quality of a morpheme that it has a meaning, and it should be smallest, and no doubt that they all are smallest. Why we are calling them smallest? Because if we are going to divide or reduce them further, they are going to lose their meaning. For example, if I'll divide the word justify as just or ify, in that case what will happen? Just has a meaning, but what about this ify? It will lose its meaning. It means it will no longer be a morpheme. So the whole justify is a morpheme. How a morpheme is different from a word? How you will say that a morpheme is different from a word? It is different from a word. The definition of a word can be the word is the smallest free unit. Again, word is the smallest unit, but we are talking about certain level. What is that level? That a word is the smallest up to the level where it remains free, while a morpheme is the smallest up to the level where it remains meaningful. So that is the difference between a word and a morpheme, that a word is the smallest up to the level where it remains free, while a morpheme is the smallest up to the level where it remains meaningful. For example, you can see the same example, the word unjustifiable. In that word we have three different morphemes as un, justify and able. In that case you cannot say that we have three different words. Why we cannot say that these are three different words? Because in this one simple word you can say that un is a morpheme, no doubt. Justify is a morpheme, and again able is a morpheme. Why they are morphemes? Because they are minimal as well as they has a meaning. They have a meaning. What is that meaning? That un is a negative marker, and able tells you the ability of something. So that is why they all are having certain meaning, and they are smallest, no doubt. But they are not the words. Why they are not the words? Because un is not a free unit. You are defining a word as a word is a minimal or the smallest free unit, but un is not a free unit. Similarly, the able, that is a suffix. I am not talking about the able as a adjective. I'm not talking about able as an adjective. In that case I am talking about the able as a suffix. In that case, un and able, they are not free in nature. Un needs something to stand on, and similarly able needs something to stand. The word justify no doubt can stand on its own. That is why we can say that it is a morpheme as well as a word. But the un and the forms un and able, they are not the words. You can just call them as the two different morphemes. So you have defined a morpheme like a morpheme is the smallest indivisible unit of semantic content and a grammatical function, and a word is a minimal free unit. means morphemes can be of two different types. It can be a free morpheme or it can be a bound morpheme. So in the same word you can see that this word consists of one free morpheme, that is justify, and two bound morphemes, that is un and able. So it means that the one simple word, one single word unjustifiable consists of three morphemes, but it is one single word. That is the difference between a morpheme and a word. Now come to the, so you can say that morphemes are the parts of word. Here you can see morphemes are said to be the parts of words, such as it can be a prefix, it can be a suffix, or it can be a root. For example, just look at the word again. In this word, un is a prefix, justify is a root, and able is a suffix. So morphemes are defined as the parts of word. It can be a prefix, it can be a suffix, or it can be a root. If it is a root, then it will be a free morpheme, and if it is a suffix, it is a prefix, then it will be the bound morpheme. So the quality of a morpheme is that it is the smallest, and the next quality of a morpheme is that it has a meaning. Now come to the next part, that is morph. Now what is a morph? A morph, there is a scholar, he has defined morph a specific pronunciation associated with a specific meaning, such as the pronunciation cannot be broken down into meaningful parts whose meanings combine to form a meaning of a whole. It means that a morph, very simple language, you can define a morph as that morph are the actual realization of a morpheme. What is this actual realization? It means morpheme is something abstract. Morpheme is something that lies there in your mind. Morpheme is something that is not a concrete unit, that is not used in the language. It is the morph that is used in a language. Morpheme is just an idea that is there in the mind of the speaker or the hearer. But morph is the actual realization of that morpheme. It means the morph is the physical form, what you get in the language. For example, when we say that whenever we talk about the plural marker, what comes in your mind? Plural marker s or sa. For example, cats, dogs. In all the cases, it is sa. But just look at it. Very carefully. Is it sa in za in dogs? No, it is not sa. In that case, it is za. And when you are saying books, when you are saying cats, it is sa. But when you are saying pays or that was not the plural marker, that was the present tense marker, present indefinite tense marker. But whenever we are saying the word dogs or the word bags, in that case it is not sa, while it is za. But or there can be words such as churches, judges. In that case, again the plural marker has the pronunciation like is. So we have three different realizations for the same morpheme. In one case it is sa, in second case it is za, in third case it is, and they all are the morphemes. So you cannot say that there are three different morphemes. No, they cannot be the three different morphemes. Why they cannot be three different morphemes? Because they all have one single meaning, and the meaning is the plural marker. The meaning is the plural marker, whether it is sa, whether it is za, or whether it is. They all have one single meaning, that is the plural marker. Though sa is the most regular form, no doubt. There is no doubt that the sa occurs frequently in the words, but it is also the fact that the word dog has no sa form, it has za form. Similarly, the word bags has no sa form, it has za form. And the word churches, judges, they all have the is form. So you cannot deny the fact that one single morpheme can be found in three different realizations. It can be sa, it can be za, or it can be id. So how you are going to define it? That what is the difference between a morph and a morpheme? So what is the physical quality of a morpheme? That, for example, if you imagine something, that I am going to talk a person or I am going to meet a person, he will look like this. It happens sometimes that we imagine that it is going to happen like this, but in reality maybe it is not the same. For example, I have imagined that if I'll go to visit Taj Mahal, the Taj Mahal is going to look like this, and when I reached there, I found no, it is against my expectations. It can be the case. So similarly, the case is here. You have imagined that my morpheme will look like this. If it is a plural marker, it will always be sa. But in reality, you found no, it is not sa. In case of bags, in case of dogs, it is za. And similarly, in case of churches, in case of judges, it is form. So what is this? It is the morph. It is the actual realization that is a physical, that happens in language, that occurs in language. It is something. So you will define a morph as that morph are the actual shape or the realization of a morpheme. Morpheme is something that is there in your mind. Morpheme is something that is there in your mind. You can also see this example. It will make a clear picture of it. The word man is carrying one morph. Morph, I have defined morph as a shape. Morph is a shape of something. So how many shapes are there? One single shape. And how many meaning is there? Morpheme is related to meaning and morph is related to shape. Is that clear? Morpheme is related to meaning. The quality of a morpheme is that it has a meaning, and the quality of a morph is that it has a shape. So if you will look at the word man, in that case what is happening? One morph and one morpheme. Why one morph? Because one single shape is there. And why one morpheme? One single meaning is there. Okay, what is a man? Man is a plus adult plus male. And now look at the plural form of the same word, that is men, men, men. In that case what is happening? Again the shape is one single shape is there, but it has two different meanings. What are the two different meanings? One is the word man, that is plus adult plus male, and what is the next meaning is that it is a plural form. It is the plural form of the word man. So in this what is happening? The one single word is having one morph and two morphemes, because the shape is one and the morphemes are two. So it is a difference between a morph and a morpheme. Morph is a shape of something and morpheme is the idea or the meaning. Similarly, in the word students is carrying two different morphs, no doubt. The word is student and s form, and again they are having two different morphemes, the student and the s plural marker. There are two shapes defining two different morphemes. It means the word students is carrying two morphs as well as two morphemes. There is no confusion in it. But what happens if the same morphemes gives you three different realizations that I was talking about earlier? That was the plural marker sa. Sometimes it is za, sometimes it is, and sometimes it is za. How you are going to deal with this? We have named them as allomorphs. What are the allomorphs? Allomorphs are the variants of the same morphemes. Means the different realization of the same morpheme. The different shapes for the same meaning. Different shapes means different morphs. When I am saying about shape, means I am talking about the morph. When I am saying meaning, means I am talking about the morpheme. So when you are saying that three different shapes for one single meaning, it means three different morphs for one single morpheme. So how you what name you will be given to these morphs? You will call them as allomorphs. Why allomorphs? Because they all belong to the same morpheme. They all belong to the one single meaning. And what is that one single meaning? Whether it is sa, whether it is za, or whether it is. They all belong to the one single meaning, that is the plural marker sa. Whether I am saying cats, I am saying cat plus plural marker. Whether I am saying dogs, I am saying dog plus plural marker. Whether I am saying judges, I am saying judge plus plural marker. It means the plural marker is common in all. It means it has a common meaning. Plural marker, it has a common meaning. And what is that common meaning? It means that it is one single morpheme. That one single common meaning is one single morpheme. It means that they all belong to the same morpheme. That is why I have given the name as the name is given to them as allomorphs. Allomorphs. Allo means that they all belong to the one single morphemes. And what is the quality of the allomorphs? The quality of these allomorphs is they are always in complementary distribution. What is this complementary distribution? This complementary distribution means where one occurs, the other cannot occur, or other can never occur. It means where sa is occurring, za can never occur. You can never say cats or you can never say dogs. It is cats or it is dogs. So the complementary distribution tells you that it is your allomorphs are the positional variants of a morpheme. Positional variants means you can define the position where sa will occur, where za will occur, where is will occur, and they are in complementary distribution. If you have defined the position for sa, in that position za cannot occur. If you had defined a position for za, in that position sa cannot occur. It means that they are in complementary distribution where one occurs, other cannot occur. Now what is this condition? What is this position, that on what place sa will occur and in what place za will occur? It is something that you call as conditioning of allomorphs. It is the conditioning of allomorphs. We define it as the conditioning. Why conditioning? Means if certain conditions prevail, this form will occur. That is why we have called it as conditioning of allomorphs. Means you are going to define the position where sa will occur, where za will occur, where is will occur. It depends. There can be certain criteria for that, and it can be the phonological criteria, it can be the morphological criteria. That is why the conditioning can be of two different types. The conditioning can be phonological conditioning and it can be the morphological conditioning. What is the phonological conditioning? As the name suggests, phonological means something related to sounds. Phonological means phone means sounds. So phonological means something related to sounds. You have to define the condition on the basis of the sounds of that sounds. For example, if I have to define that, just look at the word, what is happening, cats, books. So you can say that what is the neighboring sound of the sound sa. In all the cases, the neighboring sound is a voiceless consonant. It means whenever a voiceless sound will be there, sa form will occur. The condition for this is, I am talking about conditioning. It means the condition for sa is that sa will occur after voiceless sounds, but there are certain conditions. There are certain exceptions to it. After every voiceless sounds, but not the affricates and sibilants. Sa will occur after all the voiceless sounds, but except affricates such as cha, ja, and sibilants such as sa, za. So sa will occur after every voiceless consonants except affricates and sibilants. Similarly, the condition for occurring za is that za will occur after every voice sound except affricates and sibilants again. And what is the condition for is? That is will occur after affricates and sibilants. So sa will occur after voiceless consonants such as cats, dogs, and za will occur after voiced consonants such as bags and bags or dogs, and is will occur after affricates and sibilants such as buses, and sa is a sibilant, that is why is form is occurring. Similarly, churches, in that case what is happening, cha is an affricate, that is why is occurring there. So the condition for is that it occurs after affricates and sibilants. Similarly, and why they are allomorphs? Because they all have one single meaning. That means they are, no doubt they are three different shapes. There are three different morphs, but they call one more thing is there, that they all belong to the same meaning. They all belong to the same morpheme. That is why we have named them as allomorphs. So it was all about the morphemes, the difference between a morpheme and a word, and the difference between a morph and a morpheme, and what are the allomorphs, and what is the conditioning of those allomorphs. Because whenever we are saying that the property or the quality of allomorphs are that they occur in complementary distribution, means they are the positional variants. We are calling them as the positional variants. So we have to define the position for that in what on what position sa will occur, on what position za will occur. So we have to define certain position for that. It means we are going to define it on the basis of, it can be on the basis of phonology. I'm in this lecture I am just limiting myself to the phonological conditioning also only. I am not going to take up the morphological conditioning. What is the phonological conditioning? Means conditioning on the basis of sounds, and this is on the basis of sounds, that sa occurs after voiceless sounds, za occur after voice sound, and is occur after affricate and sibilance. I hope the topic is clear to you all. Thank you.